So, here they are, 2 single flight tickets. Date, 25th of November, destination, Paraguay. Why? Well, some facts and figures on the internet and some people try and tell me that these are actually freedom coupons. And well, I just have to go and check that out. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matteo Pellegrino. I hail from Flanders, Belgium, and I would like to share with you how I arrived at this decision. January the 1st, 2019 was a fateful day. A purple-pilled me clicked a video called Economics in One Lesson. Soon after, I stumbled upon our dearest academic agent, and I found myself looking at our world in a whole new way. In 2021, I came across the idea of the big cycle from Ray Dalio. And this idea of rise and decline struck a nerve with me. Then the COVID insanity struck, and all our theoretical understandings became lifelike as it became apparent and undeniable not only how corrupt the system is, but also how shallow and bug-broken the population is. It is impossible to forget how the normies acted, the lies they told, and the cowardice they showed. Rest assured, any next current thing they will swallow, hook, line, and sinker, just like before. It's only a matter of time, and I can't trust any of them. And that is how I opened up to the idea of calling a new country my home. Since then, I have toured around twice with my camping van in Hungary, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Poland. Naturally, all the while, diligently scoring them in a spreadsheet. Yeah. And let me tell you, they all got some very good grades, especially Poland. One of my closest friends is a pilot, and he confides, Brussels airport is like Africa, Warsaw airport is state-of-the-art. And that's how I felt about my interaction with Poland as well. They have everything Belgium has, but cleaner, safer, whiter. It seems to me that the only things that countries like Belgium or France have got on Poland is a reputation of being first world, and that's it. Then I have some other experience to share from Serbia. That's a picture from the Belgrade Zoo. It's a very old zoo from the 1700s, but it's getting criticized because it was clearly built for the convenience of the visitor, while the animals live in very tight confines. And this lion, indeed, wasn't looking too happy about his lot in life. But it was this what I wanted to talk about. I went to Serbia assuming it was kind of a backwater country. And to my embarrassment, I discovered it has a rich history, as rich as my country of Flanders. And I observed the architectural remains of an overwhelming 19th century middle-class prosperity, often built in the exact same style as the houses in my street in prosperous Belgium. Don't you think that these people too thought that the crazy decline would never happen? Yet all their palaces had fallen into decay. Obviously, I knew nothing lasts forever, but I have never felt so viscerally as there how decay can strike anywhere and how people never seem to expect it. But when I came home from these missions, I realized 2 things. First, even though I really liked these countries, they still fall under the poisonous influence of the European Union. And second, even though I like the people, especially the Serbians, what use is it to live among slightly more based or traditional people? It's nice, but what I would really like is to live between explicitly like-minded people. What I would really like is to live in a way like the past 2 days have felt, like having come home. And at that moment, spring 2020, it just so happened that in my search, I got word of a base settlement in the heart of South America, Paraiso Verde in Paraguay, and I've been keeping a close eye on them ever since. It is a young gated community of emigrated Europeans, at the moment mostly Germans, which currently houses some 300 inhabitants and which is looking for like-minded people to possibly grow into a village of 5,000 inhabitants. It advertises itself as a refuge for those who want to flee the socialist West. And as a place where you live, according to the known adage, do whatever the hell you please as long as you don't hurt your neighbor or his property. What makes this settlement so interesting for us is that it's not an abstract pie in the sky that still needs to materialize, but it literally has all the necessary infrastructure up and running. The parceling, the roads, the canals, the security system, it's all there. So any of us could apply to live there today. It was founded in 2016 by Erwin Annau, a doctor, who seems to be one of our guys, as far as I can tell by what he writes. He writes about revisionist history, real estate bubbles, inflation, hard money, the importance of private property, alternative medicine, and so forth. He mentioned that he chose Paraguay as his new home after evaluating scores of countries. So, I took my spreadsheet and I had my own go at an evaluation of the country of Paraguay. And I found myself in agreement. And so fate had it that I will be embracing one of the most noble and ancient traditions of the Germanic people. I'm going to check out South America. But first I want to be clear on my Exodus mindset. When I'm willing to heed the words of Mr. Hitchens, "You're all doomed, leave as soon as you can," it's got nothing to do with fleeing in disarray, whipped up in a frenzy by a feeble Denethor. No. I do it because I take stock of the situation and think this is my best course of action. It's been interesting to witness AA's recent surge in white pill posting, but it is my belief that only in the stage of balkanization, things can and will change. But that will take what, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 decades? That's a long time. When I'm willing to heed the words of Mr. Adams, this isn't getting any better, get the hell away, I do it because I do not want to be asphyxiated by the ashes during that time. I do it because I want to dedicate these coming decades to an unhindered growth. I do it because I think that I do not owe it to my forefathers to be bound to a particular piece of land, but that I owe it to them to prosper and to flourish. Finally, I do it because an organized retreat is a viable and complementary approach to our struggle and our shared fight against entropy. So, then, allow me to introduce to you Paraguay. And note, because of the time limitations, I'll have to try and keep up the pace. Those who want to have a better and slower look at the material, feel free to contact me later. So, Paraguay is a country bang in the middle of South America. To the northwest, you've got Bolivia. These two are landlocked, and then surrounding, you've got Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, and Peru. Let's have a quick overview of the history. In 1516, the conquistadores arrived, and in contrast with the English in North America, the conquistadores didn't bring along their own wives. So, they mixed with the local population, the Guarani, and a new mixed-race population was born. In the 1700s, the Jesuits arrived in an attempt to create an autonomous Christian Indian nation, in which they quite succeeded, as 97% of the population today is Christian. In 1810, roughly all of Latin America declared independence because they didn't recognize the Napoleonic Kingdom of Spain as legitimate. And because Spain had never thought it necessary to clearly delineate between its provinces, all these suddenly independent countries had no clearly established borders, which resulted in a lot of the famous Latin American wars. So in 1811, Paraguay too declared its independence, and it started out with a dictator, as you should. He was called José de Francia, and he aimed to create an utopia, which included compulsory race mixing. In 1840, the Lopez family took over, and they continued a protectionist economy. And in 1870, there was a disastrous war against the Triple Alliance of Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina, where Paraguay lost badly. And of a population around 700,000, only 200,000 survived, of whom only 28,000 were adult males. In 1930, the Chaco War erupted against Bolivia, so towards the northwest. And at the cost of around 3% of its population, Paraguay defeated this time Bolivia and took control of most of the Chaco region. Since then, the borders have been clearly established, and no wars have happened ever since. After this Chaco War, a series of unstable governments ensued until the establishment of the dictatorship of Alfredo Stroessner. He remained in office for more than 3 decades until 1989. That year, he was overthrown in a military coup. And thus Paraguay arrived at the end of history. So where does that leave us today? Well, these are the borders of Paraguay. You've got this huge river, the Paraná. That's the eastern border, southern border. Then this river is the Paraguay. And then it goes, you've got Pilcomayo, that's another border. And then here, these are roads or small rivers. And the river Paraguay goes here to the north and divides the country in a western part and an eastern part. The western part is tropic, hot and dry. It's like a steppe region. And in the east, you've got the Paraná region, which looks like this. It's grassy plains and wooded hills. Temperatures, which is important for some people. It's around 16 degrees in the coldest month and around 29 degrees in the hottest month. This region has the most predictable, stable, and pleasant climate, and consequently, about 95% of the population lives in this Paraná region. The country is roughly as big as Germany and has a population of around 7.5 million, which means it has one of the lowest densities in the world, so that's perfect for misanthropists. Due to its history, Paraguay has a very homogeneous population, more than other countries in South America. Most Paraguayans are a mix of European and Guarani ancestry. And remarkably, the Paraguayans have always retained as their official language both Spanish and Guarani, from which you already know 2 words, jaguar and piranha. Paraguay is a presidential republic with a constitution drafted in 1992. Elections are held every 5 years. And for the military-minded man, Paraguay has a compulsory military service. All 18-year-old males are liable for 1 year of active duty. Exports and imports happen via roads towards the ports of Brazil or via the Paraná to Buenos Aires. Paraguay is a founding member of the Mercosur bloc, so it has free trade with Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. The median salary is around $1,000 per month. And its economy is a market economy that's highly dependent on agriculture. So both the lovers of fruits and veggies and of meat will find their heart's desire there. As to safety, the everyday people are very laid back and friendly. And crime seems to have less of a tendency towards violence, but more towards petty thievery. Most organized crime happens in the east to northeast, so that's here and here, because it's close to the border of Brazil. And most of this organized crime is something which an NCAP would simply call entrepreneurialism. It's mostly the smuggling of marijuana, weapons, and so on. So just don't go to these borders and you'll be fine. And Paraguay also has very reasonable gun laws. You have to get a license and then you can lawfully acquire or possess or transfer a firearm. Oh, and if you want to move to Paraguay, if it's for a holiday, you can just come and visit. All that's required is a passport. And if you would like to immigrate, you need your passport, birth certificate, certificate of clean criminal record, and a certificate of marriage or divorce if applicable. And to elaborate for a little while on the settlement of Paraiso Verde, it's a new development, 8 times the size of Monaco. It's in the south of Paraguay. It's not a city-state or an autonomous zone. They do comply with all the Paraguayan laws. And it most certainly is not a socialist or a communist settlement. All properties are entered in the National Land Registry, and basically it's just a village with a fence around with some guards protecting the gates. So they adhere to the minarchist approach. You pay 5% municipal income tax, and in return they provide a gated community, the roads, some basic administration, and some basic building regulations. The cool thing is that they are moving things in real life. So this village has got bulldozers, they've got machines for making roads, they have drilled several 200-meter deep wells, so that now everyone in the village has access to their own deep well water. There's a zone set apart in the east for the budding industry, where some people have set up 3D printers, a business for building rammed earth houses. Somebody has started an agricultural centrum, distributing seeds and young plants. They've got a general practitioner and a pharmacy, and so on. All the good stuff, which makes you very independent. As for the village life, all people who are interviewed talk about how safe and peaceful it is, and especially how great it is for the children, that they can send their children outside to play without a worry and only have to call them inside to have their family meals. So if you miss the village green and all the simple people, this may be something for you. And one negative, which I'll openly share, is I actually discovered this colony thanks to a Vice article during the Corona mayhem. And I have to say, some people hate the mainstream media, but I love them, really true. All you have to do is put "not" in front of the title, and you know the truth. So you will see there are several of these articles on the internet from that period. So the eye of Sauron has fallen upon this project. Sad. But I think if you organize anything of this kind, you will get spotted anyway. They weathered this media storm really well, and later on boasted how much more the demand the failed smear campaign had brought them. All right, so that was an introduction to Paraguay. But now I would like to talk about what makes it interesting. So let's start with a normie-friendly comparison of Paraguay versus the West. Things Mr. Zaihan would approve of. The overall impression I got during my research was a feeling of growth and optimism. More than half of the Paraguayans are under the age of 30, While we all know that in the UK, Belgium and Germany, a huge chunk of the working population will retire soon, especially in Germany, the economic heart of Europe. What Edwin Anno mentioned is that Paraguay now reminds him of Germany in the 50s and the 60s, meaning there's nothing much, everything needs to be improved and modernized, there are many needs and many possibilities. Everyone with a head and two hands can get work if they want to. And if we take a closer look at Paraguay's demographics, there's something interesting. So the biggest cohort is around the age of 28. So this is the biggest voting bloc politicians are supposed to placate. And then I think, well, if we have to be fake and gay and live in a liberal democracy, then I'd rather live like the boomer than get fucked over by the boomer. Then, of course, one of the most important things, which is a boon for Paraguay, is the taxes. Let us have a look at the taxes. There's no strong tax culture in Paraguay. I compiled this table. They are low compared to our standards, and still I'm thinking they're too damn high. Why do we accept this? Maybe you guys have got some big brain financial setup to avoid these taxes, but I don't. And I thought we were supposedly wild Germanic warriors, and yet we still file these tax returns. What the hell happened? Did the frog get boiled too slowly? Did our balls drop off? To make things worse, not only is energy being taken from you, but you are also feeding the regime. Why are you okay with feeding the regime, especially if you work online? All of this is nothing less than an insult to my dignity. And then I compiled this table to look at some of the financial figures. So these are figures from the IMF. And what speaks to me the most is the low debt to GDP ratio, and actually the B credit rating as well, because I think this keeps you in touch with reality. And several million to billion dollar projects are also taking place in Paraguay. So this seems to indicate that these players expect stability in the coming years as well. In conclusion, Paraguay seems to me like a stable, solvent, and growing economy. And I have to confess, I am but a simple man. Taxes are low there and high here. Debt is low there, and there's an enormous debt thundering towards us here. So I simply think I should be there. Simple as. And if you're worried about the practical implication of changing countries, here's a quick rundown. So the USA has a citizenship-based taxation, meaning wherever they go, the IRS goes too. But European countries, including the UK, have a residence-based taxation. This means if you stop being a resident in your country, then you will not be taxed on any earnings abroad. And Paraguay, by the way, has a territorial tax system, so if you are a resident there, any foreign source money will not be taxed. Then there's the cost of living. Well, it's cheap. The cost of living in Asunción is 57% lower than in Oxford. And houses are available from $20,000 onwards. And as one contact living in the Chaco told me, you can get yourself a simple house built in 2 weeks' time. And then file your building permit afterwards. Just like the early boomers acquired their houses here. And I would like to repeat, houses, simple houses, are available from $20,000 onwards. That's 20 times their median wage. So I don't know how the situation is here, but my weaponized autism does not understand why a great exodus hasn't already happened yet, especially by all the young people in the UK or in the Netherlands who couldn't get on the housing ladder. Then remember the huge Paraná River in the east? Well, this is the Itaipu hydropower dam. It's the third biggest dam in the world. It's a 50-50 joint ownership between Paraguay and Brazil. And this results in electricity being dirt cheap. So one expat recounted how his family leaves all air conditioning in the house running at all times without a worry. And then here are the prices of diesel and petrol. It costs a little bit more than $1 per liter. And if you think we're in for a global collapse and are looking for self-sufficiency, I think Paraguay has you covered as well. This is the Guarani aquifer. It's the second largest known aquifer system in the world. And this vast underground reservoir can supply fresh drinking water to the whole world for more than 200 years. And then you've also got the abundance of agriculture as a big boon. And a lot of this is still low tech, by the way. So a global collapse may not affect them as strongly. Of course, no country is perfect. I also encountered two downsides. Number one, the average IQ is 85. Though that may be skewed down a bit due to the native indigenous people who still live there. And also, people do not arrive on time, even if it's for business interactions. But it remains to be seen how much of an impact these would have on our lives, especially if we will be living in a community of Europeans. Oh, and then Scott reminded me of something. Something we thought of the other day. Ladies and gentlemen, we have found the impossible. We have found the utter incredible. Whether you combine his name with India or Vietnam or Kenya or Argentina or Antarctica or Ethiopia, you always get news results, but where is EI? He missed the historical moment. So the gay or the West's influence seems to be still very weak in Paraguay for the moment. And keeping in mind the gangs in the northeast and in Brazil as well, it reminds me of radical liberation's talking point of medieval anarchy. As far as I can see, this area is the most Wild West place with European characteristics available to us on this planet. So, that was a normie-friendly comparison. And I know numbers cannot capture everything, and that's why I'm eager to complement this spreadsheet knowledge with experience on the grounds. Now, I know that it's out of character as a sensible centrist, but allow me to dabble in some far-right, debunked conspiracy theories that will never happen. What are some concerns regarding Europe a complete schizo may have? Well, he may have concerns over censorship. As some of you may have noticed, for example, on WhatsApp or Google search, since August 25th, the EU has legal authority to ban all messages on the internet that it considers to be disinformation, fake news, or violations of human rights. Then there's a worry of a financial economic crash. I know, it's the usual doom porn, make of it what you will. But I'll just quote a random Cassandra. If you think that the economy is bad now, wait until they have a banking crisis, crash the stock market, and start mass layoffs, while mortgage rates are at 9%. People will beg for UBI and bye-bye middle class. A schizo may also say that the Ukraine thing is getting a little bit stale and the time is nigh for the next current thing. CO2 tax, vax mandates, or climate lockdowns, ramping up the wars, or a CBDC with a digital identity and an iris scan. Remember, people, 1 week of propaganda and the normies will be fully on board with it. Meanwhile, in South America, people barely speak English and are mainly concerned with real-world problems. And then there's also the threat of direct state violence. And I would like to share with you the story of this young man, Yannick Verdijk, who was a Belgian libertarian. His main talking point was not to take direct action against the state, as it is futile, and to let the system play out its own demise. And naturally, he had a gold, silver, weapon, water, and food collection. September 28th last year, he received an unannounced, violent visit from the police in the middle of the night and was accidentally, of course, shot dead. And the very next day, the mainstream media informed our country that a far-right extremist had been neutralized to thwart potential terrorist plans. His target? Nobody. His motive? Non-existent. His plan? Non-existent. His accomplices? None. Yet all the usual regime stooges were foaming at the mouth how he was a danger to society. And just 2 weeks later, the story was memory hold. I also assume, as is demanded in the GAY, that brown immigration will continue. Our friend Liquid Swan, who experienced in Canada how the borders were closed for the unvaccinated, pointed out something interesting. He said, the ironic thing is that as soon as the gibbs will dry out and people will stop coming in, the government will choose to make it so that you cannot get out. They do have control over the borders. It's just that they choose to keep them open right now. Don't believe that the government would ever try to halt immigration? Here's an excerpt of a law in Germany which forbids you to promote emigration. Finally, we come to the question of spirit. And there's this passport bro on Twitter who exclaims that Paraguay is the land of the free, where you can live your life fully, eat whatever you want, everything is cheap, and you can go shooting at the range with your friends. Government is as good as non-existent, and taxes are a small afterthought. No, now, I know this is Twitter hype speak to a degree, but you do know which country land of the free used to describe, right? I don't know how many of you would be comfortable to say that unironically, even in Twitter hype speak. When I go to work, I see either immigrants or old whites or obese whites or spiteful mutants, and the one cohort which should be the backbone of society, the young combative males who should bring the spark to civilization, have dead eyes. I want to live in a land where people still have a certain hunger. And now it's time to handle some cope. Because just like how our American friends, when pushed, turn into neocons, in the same way, even people who are onto the boomer truth regime and its consequences, when pushed, can suddenly turn into Western liberal democracy simps. Have you truly and fully de-boomer truth regimed your mind yet? The concept, which I've been using for myself for a few years now, is that we live in the Union of Council Socialist States, so the UCSS. And just like the USSR had their apparatchiks and their KGB, we have our cathedral and our secret service. Just like the USSR denizens went to their jobs without much enthusiasm and went on holidays, so do the denizens in the UCSS. And just as much as the average USSR boomer believed in the Marxist end of history, the citizens in the USSS believe that they are the best and the rest are backwater countries. So what is some usual cope? Well, people say in those countries, like Latin America, If you want to get a plumber, you have to be patient, and it's always mañana, mañana. But then I just have to ask, and how is the situation here? I have to wait half a year for the plumber to come by, usually. Then there's rule of law and corruption. But when a real estate mogul gets his way in other countries, we call it corruption. But when it happens in the West, we call it politics. And then there's healthcare as a popular cope. They say in those countries, there's no decent healthcare. Are we seriously clapping for the NHS now? Look, first of all, people get less sick there because of lower stress. And second of all, just a small story, my girlfriend's grandma, who has reached an old age but has a sickly body and zero lust for life, just received a free operation, which cost 30,000 euro to the taxpayer, which is more than most people's year savings. Basically, you're taking a year of slaving away from a young, healthy person and transforming it into a year of miserable existence for an old hag. And that's why we're going very far away. But this kind of healthcare is very good for the line go up. But I don't think that that's what healthcare should be doing. Besides, Belgium supposedly has outstanding healthcare. Yet I don't know a single person who can recount a truly experience with it. And thirdly and fundamentally, what the hell are people even talking about? I went to Serbia and Bulgaria, countries I was told were shitholes. I've seen videos from Paraguay where a German lady was amazed how the dentistry was just as up-to-date as her old one in Germany. They do have doctors and hospitals and dentists and pharmacies. So just please apply weaponized autism. The final cope, which I hear is, such crazy decay will never happen here. But remember the experience in Serbia I told you about. Decay can happen anywhere, and people never seem to expect it and never seem to prepare for it. So, I've touched upon a lot of things. The point which I want to impress on you with this talk is, be aware that you have to make a choice. Evaluate all the points I've brought up and choose which path you'll take consciously. Don't let yourself be a prisoner of mere habit or comfort, and especially don't let yourself be a prisoner of Western mind games. We amuse ourselves by identifying mental prisons, but what use are all our big brain takes if it's not to ultimately guide action? I have looked up all these things and decided to keep exploring this path on the left and to see whatever and to discover whatever it may bring. In closing, I would like to address some people. Most in spirit, actually. So, who says organization? Says Mr. J. Greenriver and friends. Hopefully, along this path, we will find the resolve and the manpower and the resources to found a new organization. I like the sound of El Instituto de Cultura Histórica y Futura Latinoamericana. Let us beat Mr. Tony Blair to it. Anyone who would be willing to write based legislative proposals to pressure through in Latin American governments should hit us up. And then there's Mr. Carl Benjamin. We'll take him here as a figurehead of all the people who want to remain here, because his answer to Peter Hitchens' advice famously was, "I'm not leaving." And I think we should put one discussion to rest before it's even started. Our city has been raided, the enemy is within the walls, and the hordes are streaming in, intent on pillaging and plundering. Some of us may prefer to go and take cover in the cellars, to fight another day, and others may want to retreat and start an outpost. There should be zero energy wasted fighting on what approach to take. If there are persons to be reproached, let it be the coward normie and the sellout politician. Maybe this path will lead us to an approach of an international network and a home base. Let us learn from the Swedes and enjoy the fruits of this two-pronged approach. And for the people who are not in on the joke, Swedes are not Swedes. Then I would like to address the women in the room. I assume you are here because you are attracted to our vision of a good world. But the frustration I pick up on is that if you try and actually live according to our values, you are often bound to be regarded as an odd one and live a bit like an outcast in society. I hope in the future we can all make work of a stronger community ties, to have each other's back in times of trouble, or simply to enjoy each other's company in daily life, wherever that may be. And this is a masculine. Our biological function is protection. Our biological function is physical control of territory, and we have very little of it. I think we don't realize enough how much we're living in an open-air prison and walk around like the depressed lion in the Belgrade Zoo. No wonder we've got an epidemic of male depression, which is just humiliation with better branding. Men, we have to fight tirelessly against this prison and roar and rage against the dying of the light. And then finally, it was Dave who said in one of his videos that the generations coming after the boomer could be described as the ones who wait. And that's a good description, and I cannot accept this situation. I like the 80s, I like the 70s. I like me some arena rock, I like me some disco. But I swear to God, if I have to hear Highway to Hell at the queue in the supermarket one more time, I think I might just flip my shit. Are we gonna accept this for 40 more years? It's the young who should dominate culture. I vomit when I think of how the talent in our spheres is getting squandered by the regime. Where is Pharaoh's cathedral adorned with Vandevillers tattoos? Where is its robust off-grid electricity network designed by Gronk? What are our martial young men, like Charlie, to do? To find the people they are actually proud of to protect. Where is our Iron Dome created by our engineers to protect us from democracy brought from the skies? Where is Amy's very own library with daily literature classes? I assume it's not because of our laziness that these don't exist. I think that unshackled we could have been terraforming the moon by now, but the regime is stealing away our energy with its dark claws. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may dream, I dream of us taking control of a country and building a nation. We need a recalibrated culture, customs, architecture, music, maybe even birthday cards and godfather ties. Ladies and gentlemen, I will go down there and I will report to you on what I find. And if you like what you heard today, and if you like the reports that you will hear from me, then, señores y señoras, do come over and let us spit defiantly into the eye of the dark monster which is entropy, and let us start building.